Welcome back. So since the last lesson, I kind of added some new lines of code right here in the location validator test. I also added regions in the test. And if you haven't played around with regions, they're pretty neat. You can just do like this hashtag and then region like this. And then you get this small area right here, which starts with this guy, the region, and ends with the end region. And then you can write something here like good area, whatever you want. It's just a name. And that good area is now, whatever you put in here can be hidden, right? So let me just try and add a couple of lines right here just to show you how neat it is. There we go. Now I can hide this under a single tag. So you can go and check that out. It's a neat thing to do. And what I did was I decided that I want to build some areas. This is the same like it's always been. We just have the constructor and the properties in there. But I added we have the name area right here, which is for the name test, right? Then we have the address area right here, which is for the address test, and these are new. And of course I started adding these address tests just like we did with the name, and the end is that now we also have an address property on our location right here, and we also have an owner property on our location, and finally we have an ID property on our location. So I added all of those properties slowly. Now go back to the test right here. You'll see that I actually have a good amount of tests for all areas. So I think these three properties are well covered, but I didn't complete the ID one. So right now I actually on purpose have a failing unit test right here. I made a test that says I'm going to throw an argument out of range exception if you try to create a location with an ID less than 1. So in order to start understanding this, let's have a look at what I actually changed inside our location test helper. I went into the location test helper right here and I made some changes so we can actually go and get locations without certain information. For instance, the first one I say get location without a name. Now default, if you just call that method with nothing in here, I actually do that in one of the tests. Let me try and show you. If we go to the name test, there we go. If I call this guy with nothing in there just by putting no information inside the name, you're actually gonna get a blank name, right? But if I put in a name right here, I'm going to get a name. That makes sense. In this case, just a, and that's not enough, so I'll get an exception. But I made that method so you can say location without name. Sweet. Let's try and go in there. You can do the same now without address. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a name, but I'm not going to add an address. So again, it'll either be blank address or whatever address you pass. I have the same with an owner. So you can get with an address and a name, but not an owner. And then the same with an ID where you can say name, address, and owner, but no ID. Just to kind of have some helper methods right here for the location. Sweet. Let's jump back to our location test right here, because if I go into the validator test, you'll see that what I ask you in this new unit test right here that I think you should go and do yourself, just pause the video and fix this error right here. I say that we need, with a location with a negative ID is going to throw the exception, and right now it's not doing it. So it needs to throw the exception of argument out of range, and it needs to kind of pass in that message right there. So go and see if you can figure it out. Just pause the video and try it yourself. And let me just prove to you while you kind of do that. There we go. It's going to fail right here with a negative. There we go. So now you can go and test it. Go and figure it out yourself. It's not a big thing, but it kind of just gives you a small introduction to fixing these small issues on your own. So while you guys, you probably solved this now, and now I'm going to solve it in my videos. Let's try and go to the location validator right here. Now, how do I solve it? I'm going to make a new if statement right here. I'm going to say if location.id is less than 1 or less than 0, sorry. If that is the case, I'm of course going to throw that exception right here. So throw new, and it's going to be an argument out of range exception. Now a small thing you need to notice with the argument out of range exception is actually, if you don't want the parameter name to be sent, giving you a weird exception, you just want some text, right? Just pass in null as the first parameter right here, and then the second parameter is going to be the message you want to send. So let me just try and do that again. It kind of remove some code. There we go. So now we have a good message, and let's just try and rerun the tests to see that everything is good. And we'll slowly start moving away from test now and get more into production code. So don't worry, it's not going to be as heavy tested in the future. So that's it. You can probably find more ideas on how you can test your code and validate it if you want to, but I think I'm going to end it here with the validation, and now we kind of have a really good, strong unit tested location right here, so we can keep going with our create function. That's it for this lesson. See you next time. Have fun.